panel discussion. Sorry, the schedules are a little thing. So this panel was supposed to happen a little later, but so I think the title of this panel is Skills, Research and Impact, but I'll just modify it further. What we are going to discuss about here is basically the role of research, practice, impact, as far as the skill development is concerned, because we have representation here from organizations who are doing pretty much all the three things. So they are researching into what kind of skills or what kind of skill development is required. They are also practicing, they are practitioners in this field, and there is a larger social impact, community level impact that they are trying to create through their projects. So maybe I'll start with Mr. Kamesh Sangi. He's the Director, Livelihood, American India Foundation, and CEO, Market Aligned Skill Foundation India. So Kamesh, can you just tell me a little bit about the kind of work that your organization does, as well as skill development, particularly for the marginalized sections is concerned? Because I think that's pretty much the focus of American India Foundation. Yeah.
Thanks, Archana, and thanks for having me here. So American India Foundation is an organization that focuses on how we can eliminate multidimensional poverty. We were started way back in 2003 when, after the 2001 rather, after the Bhuj earthquake, when Vajpayee ji reached out to President Bill Clinton to create a platform of Indian diaspora to be able to support the Indian social sector and the people in India. And since then, we've been focusing on health, education, livelihoods, and leadership as our focus areas. And, we believe that poverty alleviation is about health, education, livelihood. So in terms of the context of the research, we are constantly looking at models of how we can approach things holistically and eliminate poverty by taking up these three things. Within livelihood, for us, we focus on a very simple outcome, which becomes a little complicated in the diverse cultures of India, and the outcome is income, right? How do we help people generate income? How do we enable poor people to get access to sustainable income opportunities, both through employment, through entrepreneurship, and bringing in an entrepreneurial approach to this whole scenario so that we can actually give them the last mile connect to the market. And by market, I mean on the one side, the employers as far as jobs are concerned, and the buyers as far as entrepreneurship programs are concerned. So yeah, so that's what we do, Archana.
Thank you. We now have another eminent panelist here, Mr. Tarun Nehra. He's Director, Strategic Initiatives, DORA Foundation. I think the foundation began during COVID, and there are some innovative skilling programs that they have undertaken since then. So, Tarunji, we would like to hear more about those innovative programs from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and good afternoon to all of you. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to be present on the stage today with all the eminent panelists. So, DORA Foundation, Dehradun based, they have a unique model, a very innovative model, whereby they connect the two ends of the value chain. One side you have bright, deserving students from very humble background who cannot afford education beyond class 12th. On the other end of that value chain, you have colleges, engineering colleges, medical colleges, management colleges, and many other colleges who typically would have vacant seats in their courses. So the model works like this. DORA Foundation would approach these colleges and say, okay, in let's say BTech Electrical, out of 60, you typically fill 40 seats. So help us with 4 seats, 5 seats, that's with us. Do not charge tuition fee from these students. For college, they lose nothing out of it, right? Because when the professor comes and teaches, whether he teach 40 or 44, he's not going to charge more. Very clear. So tuition fee waiver they get from the college, up to 80% to 100%, depending on the college to college. And other expenses they bear and at times share with the student itself. So that's how they started, and we started in 2020, in fact, and there comes COVID. Very typical situation where everyone is logged, and we have just started, and the model works in a way that we reach out to schools. We make presentations in the schools where we typically find our target segment, and those schools will make a presentation and will identify the students, and then the students will apply through a process. And then Door Foundation representatives will actually visit each and every house, make sure that yes, we are providing this opportunity to the right set of person, the right student. But COVID being there, you cannot go over there. So huge challenge, right? Thereafter, you have to reach the students and connect with them and talk to them and convince them. And then other side is college. Again, you meet college and get them placed. So these are challenges which we faced during that period. But where there's a will, there's a way. So reaching out to students, they approached the schools, got the database, and had to do a huge churning over there, and finally reach the students through mobile phones, through network, through various calls, online calls, making sure whether they are the right set of people or not. They had to go to the live location feeding, and then we have to also do video calls with very limited internet connectivity. And this foundation is based in Dehradun, and their target segment typically is the entire Uttarakhand, which are hilly areas, and many times internet is not there at all. So trying and attempting time and again, finally they could catch hold of the students and place 11 students in year 1, in year 2000, from 2020 basically, sorry. From there, this year we will be hiring around 150 such students, putting them into this. We got 700 applications, and out of which we have to prune them down and make sure that we are providing the inputs to the right sort of beneficiaries. And these 150 would be now studying in various colleges and doing their graduation from these colleges. Students from places like Bihar and all, Bihar, AP, Telangana, they approach us, and many times they just board a train saying, we are coming to your organization and you please help us now. How do you help? It's your problem. So really happy and glad to do this service to the students, and so happy to come on this platform and talk about Door Foundation to all of you. I'm only 9 days old in the system, in Door Foundation, and hence at times I referred they rather than we, okay? Because they did the job, I did not. At that point of time, I was in TCS. Otherwise, I have had a long stint in Wipro and TCS for a long time. TCS, I was the head of operations and delivery for TCS ION. If you heard of TCS ION, they of course now I'm out. Ashish will say we. He is at TCS. So TCS ION conducts all large, complex and prestigious exams in this country. Be it JEE Mains, JEE Advanced, AIIMS, NEET, CAT. We used to do all that, right? And then I moved to TCS CSR for a year, in fact 15 months. And after exactly 151 months in TCS, I left TCS and just left it. I said, okay, I'll do some social work, and now I've got this opportunity to be with Door Foundation. So thank you, Rishikesh, for getting me here. And we have a long association with Rishikesh in terms of professional association. He was with CSC, I was with TCS, and a personal connect. He's a fitness enthusiast, if you do not know it. And he's going to attempt Ironman. If you don't know what Ironman is, we'll talk about later during lunch. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Interesting. So I think we would have more interactions with you in future now that you have come on this side of the table as far as skilling is concerned. So let's move to Mr. Amit Mehta. He's the head's training and certification, AWS. I'm sure people in the audience here who are from the higher education institutions as well as skilling, they have heard about AWS. Many of them would have approached you for partnerships as well. So we would like to know more about the training certification activities that AWS does, and how do you really identify different segments for what kind of training, what kind of certification is required, especially the youth of the country who have such diverse backgrounds.
Well, thanks for having me here. So for those of you who are not familiar with AWS, every time you order food on Swiggy, AWS powers it. Every time you do a Zoom call, we are behind it. Every time you do a Paytm transaction, we are behind it. So that's the day in and day out touch with AWS. So we're the company which provides cloud solutions. Now, the area that we cater to is digital skills, or because we believe that digital skills is going to be really transforming the nation and taking the nation ahead. Just for context, India needs about 6 million odd digitally trained people by 2028. There's a gap, projected gap of about 28 to 30% in that. And I think that's the area that my team spends day in, day out to figure out how can we bridge that gap. Now, the way we address it is clearly one, the people who are immediately there. So about 5.4 million IT workers who we train. So that's the first cohort of learners. And the idea is how quickly can we upskill them? And we do that through what we call a blended learning approach, which means they'll consume some hours on our learning platform. We've called Skill Builder, where there are about 600 free titles. They can consume it in their own time. There are structured learning paths available for basic, intermediate, advanced learners. By persona, you could be a developer, you could be an admin. So by persona, you could actually have a learning path. Learners consume some on the Skill Builder platform, and then they can attend an in-person classroom to be able to fulfill it. And then there are things like gamified learning environments, hackathons, for them to crystallize their learning. The second cohort of learners that we work with is building the talent pool of the future, where many of you are there, where we offer programs to colleges, 500 plus colleges on our programs today. And these are tier 1 colleges who will take our academy program. They will learn. It's free to the student, 6th and 8th semester student. They will take our courses. The platform is there, and there's certification. So our focus there is education to employment. I think Dr. Hemant raised a very important point. How do we take these people from the education to employment journey? So there are courses that we do for. Now these courses are aligned to the new education policy. They can enroll at an elective and get credits for this. So there's a very strong focus. So for the last 3 years or so, we have placed about 15,000 students from different alumni of our courses into the industry. What we represent is what the industry needs and how can we bridge what you bring in education and skilling and bridge that gap. So that's the second cohort. The third cohort, we also realize that we need to build a diverse talent pool, and that's where we work with underprivileged. We work with the people who are from low privileged backgrounds, unemployed, veterans, women who have taken sabbatical from work. How do we get them into the workforce? And there we work with organizations like NSDC, for instance, organizations like Generation India, for instance, and there's investment from our side, there's investment from industry peers. And as part of that, we work very aggressively, Tech Mahindra Foundation. And there the focus is how to just diversify the size of the talent pool. So those three work together, and the whole circle of influence is, how do we take people from education to employment? And I think bridge the overall India skill gap.
Thank you so much. So, of course, we know that, digital, IT, the future skills is so important for us, and we have been talking about it since morning. Everybody has almost touched upon that. But in the inaugural session, we also heard that, there are sort of other skills also which are required besides digital and IT, and these happen to be in maybe agri-allied sectors as well. So I now come to Mr. Chirag Sharma, CEO, Drone Destination. I think this is a completely different sector for us. But at the same time, we know that there is, government is focusing a lot on training of women, particularly for drone usage, as well as drone repair and maintenance. So Chirag, we would like to hear more about, what inspired you to start this venture in the first place, and what kind of skill development activities do you do? Are you targeting both urban and rural areas? And I'm pretty sure there is a lot of research also that has gone into really deciding your target segment. So we would love to hear about that.
Thank you. So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Pre-lunch sessions generally are hard. Everyone's, waiting. Ye kab khatam hoga, and then, we hit. So I'll try to keep it a bit engaging from my end. So we started Drone Destination 5 years back and we of course have another company called Hubble Fly. So incidentally, we got to see both sides The manufacturing arm is called Hubble Flight Technologies, which is a government-authorized manufacturing company. And Drone Destination became a government-authorized training company first, and eventually also ventured into drone services. So as Drone Destination and having seen, the manufacturing side of the ecosystem also, this sector, I would still say, is in its stage of infancy. So I think we're just started to scrape the surface at this point. It's very much still a new sector, but a very disruptive sector that in 5 years down the line, I remember there was the Honorable Prime Minister said, look, लोगों के घर में phone भी है और साथ में drone भी रहेगा. And we foresee that vision happening because of the kind of disruption that this technology is, going to bring in. When you talk about innovation, when you talk about cost savings, when you talk about, just basically increasing time for, reducing time, increasing, efficiency, the technology is there at every kind of, it'll touch different parts of our lives. So coming to, Drone Destination particularly, we come from an aviation background, having run aviation academies, but of course for non-scheduled operations. And then drones was incidentally something that was a natural extension because it was getting regulated by Ministry of Civil Aviation and DGCA. And we realized that there would be a gap. We found most drone entrepreneurs 5 years, 10 years ago from that time were generally in college and were not in a regulated environment. So of course, when we came in, we realized there is that gap of getting regulated now. So that is, that was probably one of our, that gave us an early start in that sense. And then of course, we started India's first government authorized drone training school, which gives drone licenses. So to give perspective to people here, if you want to fly any drones for commercial activity in India, you do need a drone license. And that is something we run. So today we have 12 locations where we are doing, these drone operation trainings to become certified drone pilots. We have trained up to 5,000 pilots so far or given them licenses for 10 years. We're authorized by the government. In this case, we are the RTO and we have the powers to issue the licenses. And then of course, as we progressed, slowly we realized these skills also have to be mapped to the industry. So what started off as just basic drone flying is now getting converted into actual commercial applications. To give example to people here, you mentioned, agriculture. So of course, in civil space, agriculture for the next 3 years from drone perspective is probably going to be the largest consumer of this skill set when we talk about be it flying agriculture Kisan drones or be it maintaining them, be it repairing them, or even, so there is in fact 2 large consumer use cases, agriculture and the other one is called survey mapping. So we have also been part of a large scheme called Swamitva, where 650,000 villages are getting mapped by drones. And eventually these landowners will get digital property cards which get linked to Aadhaar card. So now all those people, from rural areas who could not go to banks, who could not keep their, property as a collateral or maybe, just use that as a financial, tool are now coming in mainstream. And drones are helping do that because of the kind of accurate data that they're able to provide. So we foresee from skill set perspective, many different jobs coming in. There is an estimate of about 1 million direct jobs to be created just in the drone service sector in the next 5 years. This will come from agriculture, this will come from survey mapping and disaster management and surveillance. So we see this ecosystem, progressing in this order. And of course, as the company, we've also introduced a new skill, which you will see soon. And I do believe there are schools and colleges here. We've come in with a new sport here called drone soccer, which originated in Korea. But we've got the exclusive rights to, bring that sport here, which will introduce kids with drones, but from a hybrid sport perspective, bring them out of, screen time, get them in an actual arena. It's an indoor, as big as this setup, you can play live drone soccer. So that's another, skill set or just a category we have added to expand the horizon. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very interesting. In fact, I'll come back to you with one more question later on. NSDC is also supporting some initiatives in drone repair and maintenance, but that's again for a different category. But I'll come back to you. I have more questions on drone. We'll move to Mr. Ashish Kumar now, who's the Service Delivery Manager of TCS. I'm sure all young people today in India aspire to be employed with TCS at some time or the other in their careers. So just want to hear more from you on how you are supporting maybe through additional skill development or Even like you were mentioning that TCS carries out these large skill exams and so on, competitive exams. So would really like to know the role that TCS plays in the higher education as well as skill development space.
Thank you so much. The beauty of TCS is, you don't need to introduce yourself. That's the beauty. And that's the honor also you carry when you, represent an organization like Tata. The name itself is enough to certify what it stands for. The impact, what it has been creating from years and is ongoing and would carry forward the legacy, of course. So you asked impact in terms of education. Let me divide it into three aspects. First is, the CSR aspect, I think what Tarun used to handle. Another one is the industry academia interface. And the third one is education vertical as such. So if I talk of CSR aspect, it's unlike all CSR activities which any organization of standard, carries forward. So we also follow the same and we work around the SDG goals. Education is one subset of that. So we are the first runner whenever anything comes, especially, with regards to India. We were the first who came forward in terms of COVID support as well. I'm sure, you would have heard lots of support. Whenever any disaster comes, we are the first runner in that aspect. So coming to the second aspect, which is the academia interface, we have a body which prominently visits various institutions and build up relationship with them, which is not involving any cost here, that academia interface. So where we go and train them on various upcoming skill sets of future, industry 5.0 and what would be trending in the coming future. So this is what academia interface does. The third one is education vertical as such, which is, unlike other verticals of any entity of a company, we have education vertical, which is working towards entire, what you've heard from the previous speakers and all, designing of LMS, working on with, all sort of, industry, or working sort of solutioning for any education segment, whatever you name in India, I think we have on board with us already. So, all the examination, what Tarun already talked about, we have all the giants examination, all the renowned examination happening on our platform. So we catered through TCS Ion the training part, which can be, which can be cherished by any of the institution, and they can come and have association with us, can go for, taking up this part. And the education vertical is into designing of your entire infra in terms of, setting up your education system, setting up of your, any sort of IT segment which relates to your, education, which is, somewhere both are internally related. So these are two segments within the education. One is in terms of education skill development. The other is in terms of IT solution providing. So these are the solution what we cater in terms of, with regards to education and skill development in India. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move to the last panelist, Dr. Vidya Raghavan. She's CEO of NCCDC. I think, Vidya, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your organization and also this whole, thing about behavioral communication and how that plays such an important role when it comes to any projects that we talk about, any initiative, whether it is skill development, whether it is promoting education. I think somewhere the mindset change and the support given to, sort of enhancing or helping you to implement those skills in a better manner is what I think your organization really supports. So maybe you can tell us more about your activities.
Thanks, Archana, and thanks, Rishikesh, also for having me here. I mean, our area of work is very, very different. We started as New Concept more than 35 years ago, and in 2017, we set up a not-for-profit arm, which I'm also one of the founder. And we've been working a little different from what we've been hearing since morning. We've been working in the social sector, mainly with national flagship programs and also state programs in health, nutrition, wash, elementary education, now solid liquid management, waste management, etc. So we look at, definitely we've been looking at social and behavior change in a big way across these sectors. It's a cross-cutting thing, including gender and disability as well. So livelihood also, Kamish. So, and because we've done a lot of work with groups like Jivika and also the Madhya Pradesh SRLM, and we tried to integrate, the social and behavior change being a cross-cutting component, where the research for social and behavior change, be it formative research, to know the needs of the audience groups, stakeholder groups, and then moving on to designing specific customized tools for them, and then implementing. And then the most important component is capacity development and continuous capacity development, where in the last few years, I would say even before COVID, we started promoting the hybrid thing. Like first, we have face-to-face training, followed by, the LMS-based e-learning modules we've been developing. So we've been working with most of the national flagship programs, be it TB elimination, HIV, it is still control program because we still have to have a vaccine for it, and then malaria, vector-borne diseases. So we work a lot with frontline workers and program managers of different national flagships. So I think coming to skills, the communication skills, and if we talk of ASHA worker, in the health, who's the one everyone looks at finally when you're looking at health outcomes in India, though the poor lady is not even a full-time, fully paid worker. So we do skill development in terms of communication skills. And when it comes to interpersonal communication that she needs to convince a family to ensure that they complete routine immunization for their children. So we're working in fact, right now we are in the verge of starting in 11, out of 11 aspirational districts, we will be states. There are 143 aspirational districts where routine immunization uptake is very low. In fact, what we call zero-dose children, where not even the first pentavalent vaccine has been given. We're going to be training the civil society organizations who are going to implement to increase the uptake of routine immunization services, as well as ensure more community mobilization. So this is one skill that you have to have, the interpersonal communication skills, without which frontline workers cannot deliver. They may have, knowledge, technical knowledge about what the 12 or 13 immunizations that are in the chart, but if they are not able to convince, they are not able to understand the barriers which the family is facing, then they won't be able to motivate them to come for the, for the services. Similarly, using schools as a platform, so training teachers on menstrual hygiene management. So that has been, I'm just giving a few random examples. There are many, many. So, and then of course, one example which we find very difficult always when people talk about, okay, well, how did your capacity development impact the outcome? The soft skills, as we call it, though I don't like to use the term soft skills because it's a very important skill. You're kind of, minimizing its this thing by calling it a soft skill. It is very difficult to measure the outcome because it is, the structural issues are there. If a PHC is not functioning, doctors are not there, no matter community is willing to take on the services, if they go, they don't find the doctor, it is very difficult to, motivate them again to go for the service. So coming back to that, that is something which we've been trying very hard to see how to monitor and evaluate. In fact, we have a online hub where we offer 3 courses. I'll be very happy to share. I'll share it with you. You can share it with others. Where we, there is a foundation course on SBCC. There is a course on SBCC and social inclusion, and one on monitoring and evaluation. So I'll stop here because one can go on and on. So this is what we've been trying to do. And last but not the least, life skills, that we've been working a lot with adolescents on life skills education. NCERT also has, there are 11 themes for under the School Health and Wellness Program, and also the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. So life skills is an important part. We've been working on that as well.
Thank you, Vidya. So we'll move to Mr. Tarun Mehra. Although I know that you're very young in this organization, Door Foundation, but just want to know how you're looking at maybe a corporate partnership with the civil society organizations to take your work forward. And like, you know, how do you want to like make this very, very relevant to the local communities who possibly were largely impacted by COVID? We already see that, you know, whether it is their educational levels, the quality of education, the kind of jobs that they've got. I mean, that there has been a cascading impact on them. So how do you see Door Foundation addressing some of these issues?
Sure. I'll talk about Door Foundation and also talk about another school with which I have been associated with for last 1 year. Exemplary School. I will talk about that. Door Foundation as such, yes, we are close to the community. See, corporates at one end can provide the resources, the scale, the help in terms of IT services and program management, whereas CSOs like Door Foundation, who are close to the community, bring in the flavor from there. And both put together can actually help the needy, the community. In TCS, we used to say that you cannot solve the entire problem single-handedly. If TCS says that, you can understand how big the problem is. Okay? So, yeah, that's fine. You can follow me. You can follow me later on and leave TCS and join CSOs. Okay? So that's very much relevant over there, and we do practice it also. The school I'm talking about is a very unique school. It's 100 kilometers from Delhi. Right, it's called Pardada Pardadi Education Society, PPES. It's in the bank of River Ganges, a small city called Anup Shahar. The school is running for last 24 years, and I'm associated with the school for last 1 year now, informally, just going over there and doing volunteering for the school. Now, what is the uniqueness about the school and the community part that you spoke about? That how do you involve community and how do you have the buy-in from the community, and how do you on the other side have the corporates helping this CSO, which is called PPES. So the gentleman at the age of 60 retires from United States, named late Virendra Sam Singh. His name is Virendra Singh. Being in US, they used to find difficult to pronounce his name, so the nickname is Sam. It's just expired a few days back. And so he came back to his village and thought that I'm one great guy. Let me provide free education to the girls in the school, in this village from where he was, near Anup Shahar. So he started a school and free education. They won't charge anything. To surprise, hardly any girls were coming to the school. Very, very minimal attendance being there. And that's where the community and taking the community ahead with you and the integration between the CSO and the community is what I'm going to talk about. So when he went and met the parents of those girls, students, what he found was that education was their last priority. Right? They did not have clothes to wear. They did not have food to eat. Their father would come in the evening and beat them up. If they don't go to the field, they don't earn the bread for the day. That were their challenges. And here this gentleman was saying that I'll provide you free education. So they're not interested in that. So he changed the model upside down. Today, that school provides free education, free uniform, free transport to all the students. They have 25 buses and free cycles being provided. 3 meals, morning 8 o'clock, morning 10 o'clock, breakfast, 1 o'clock lunch, and 4 o'clock they provide snacks. Students are there full day because there's nobody at home to teach them. School is open 300 days a year. They don't have summer vacations, they don't have winter vacations. 50 to Sundays, 13 holidays, that's all. So free education, free clothing, free transport, free food. And since you earn in the fields, I give you 10 rupees to you in your account per days of attendance. So if a girl child comes for 250 days also in a year, 2,500 rupees in her account in a year, 13 years of education, add the interest into it, she has 50,000 rupees in her account by the time she passes out. And their promise is nursery to employment, not nursery to 12th, beyond which they help them doing their graduation and then finally get them placed in a job. Already some 200 plus girls they have placed in certain jobs. Their girls are studying in NTTF, Bangalore, and many other such organizations, right? And the scale, they are teaching 3,500 such girl students. Huge scale. So that's what I mean when in the question which Archana raised, that how can CSOs and corporates look at the community, integrate them into your process, and be relevant to them at the same time. Now, this is a school which is extremely relevant for the entire community, and beyond which they also have certain skilling programs running over there, and many of their students are now working there itself, and their daughters are now studying, right? So that's how I see it happening. The school name is Pardada Pardadi Education Society, PPS. Read about it somewhere. And it's a fantastic concept they run, and I work for them. I hope I answered
Thank
your
you.
question.
Thank you. Yes. So I was just told that our time is up, but anyway, we'll just quickly proceed with a few questions. So maybe for AWS and TCS, I'll have the same question, and that's basically that, you know, in the latest World Economic Forum report, we have read that the jobs which would exist maybe from say 5 years from now are not there today. So that means there is a lot of catching up that will have to be done as far as future skills are concerned. I mean, that would be IT, digital, but maybe plus many other skills. So at your organizations, how do you sort of map what is going to be required? How, you know, through your courses, certification programs, etc., how can you sort of meet that future demand?
The World Economic Forum also has an interesting report which says 50% of the existing manpower resource would need reskilling by 2025, adding to what she said. You know, and we are well aware of things. And if I talk about what is happening at organization, we are already ahead of time, and we have already more than 70% of our resource are already trained on AI, despite of being from any vertical. I repeat, despite of being from any vertical, because each vertical has their own part of AI. So thinking that AI is only a part of CS or a part of, you know, IT is not making sense. And we at TCS have various sort of, you know, we work with doctors, we work with civil engineers, we work with, you know, ex-bureaucrats and all those. So we have those sort of employees at TCS. So thinking, there were many who said, you know, I'm MBBS background. So what do you do? We have MBBS, we have life sciences. We have a huge vertical of life sciences. We have, no, we also take up teachers. So no, teachers always have a doubt. And best part is the numbers of hiring, I'm sure it's open to everyone, 40,000 for this year and counting. You know? And that includes everything, not just for fresher, it also includes the people who have skill set are from various background. So at the organization, we always keep in mind that there is something we internally called wings. We give them wings. So when you uplift yourself in terms of enhancing to the upcoming future skill sets, which is more about, you know, logical thinking, analytical thinking, in line with ChatGPT or say generative AI. So, you know, ChatGPT is a good one. We must embrace it, and, you know, it is here to stay. You cannot run away from this fact. So what we are doing is, how can you build better on this? How can you enhance things by making it simpler and making it more, reaching it to the last mile? Problem solving is the most crucial skill set of any era you talk about. Would be and is today also. You know, so we keep enhancing and, you know, ensuring that there is a target in your, you know, every year you know, promotion also, that you also have to complete certain type of course. You also have to attain this number of learning hours. You also have to get this many external certificates, which we, you know, sponsor for them. So this thing is not just for a mid-level or for the, you know, junior associate. It goes up till the management level, and each one has their own, you know, management development program or anything like that. So skill development is an integral part, is so much integrated that it is also a part of your performance in terms of, you know, if you want to get promotions, you need to come up with the skill sets within the organization also. So we are working towards that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just add to that. So if you really see, I think what really counts is the pace of innovation, and, you know, Gen AI and AI is going to transform the future of jobs. And I think fundamentally what we do is, we did a survey and we kind of polled about 2,000 odd employees and employers. And interesting thing that came out was, obviously 98% said we're going to be AI enabled. But what changes in this game is that 84% were tech communities, there were about 71% who were tech adjacent, which means they're not necessarily coding, but they are using tech in some way. And about 60% of them are non-tech users. So I think what will change in the future of work is that a lot of people who are not even tech, who are deep into tech, they will also start using tech. So one of the things that start changing is, I mean, look at yourself. Today, if you do a bio, you probably, if you write a poem, I mean, I've seen people writing poems and using ChatGPT help, and they have no need for tech. So I think fundamentally that's the transformative effect of new tech. And what that does is that transforms the landscape of the kind of jobs you need. So, and it lands up creating new jobs. So you'll have a prompt engineer. How will you give prompt to an AI engine to get you what you want? You will have a data scientist. You will have the jobs of marketing would change, because I don't know whether you've seen, there's a latest campaign that came, I think it was Volkswagen or something, where what was taking an agency to create 6 weeks for a client happened in 24 hours. So that's the nature of how things start to change. Now, what does that agency do? Obviously, agency loses big billable hours because now they have big people. So it can be done with tech. So that's how it changes. So the way we deal with it is fundamentally, keep the curriculum intact and ensure that the people are up to date in our curriculum. And the curriculum is not only generated by us, but it is generated by the ecosystem. And that's where I think he raised a very important point. The ecosystem comes into play. You heard a presentation today where AI tech is being used in schools. So the ecosystem, the ISVs, the startups, they start using and they start feeding into the curriculum, and you will automatically by design start taking up courses. So I think curriculum is one, investments in ecosystem is another. And the third then is getting intentional about things. So one of the things you realize is, just because GenAI is there, does that mean, today GenAI is there, but when we go and poll the industry, if I train 100,000 people on GenAI today and make them job ready, have the businesses moved enough to have 100,000 people? So I think that's where you start mapping, okay, what is really behind the hype, and what is really needed for execution. Now, coding industry is going to change, with Copilot and with artificial intelligence pilots who are actually helping in improving the efficiency of code. One of the challenges we realize is, I think you may not be aware, we work with our top 5 SIs. They needed to recruit about 1,000 professionals. They work with an agency, SHM. They got them about 5,000 people who could potentially interview for those roles. The interesting fact that came out, do you know the number of people who can write efficient code from all the colleges that we have? Hazard a guess, it's a single digit 2%. 2% of those people who are qualifying from those colleges write an error-free code. Now, first of all, you need to solve for that in your education institution. Second is, with AI coming in, chances are those 2% people, when they come in, the quality of code starts to improve. But then you need to train them to use Copilot. You need to use Code Whisperer and Amazon Q. So those are the things that start changing, and that's how you start looking at the ecosystem. What gets taught in educational institutions? What gets taught by faculty members? The other challenge is we don't have faculty members. What gets taught by faculty members, and what does the industry? So that's the kind of handshake that we do, and that's how we bring it to life.
Thank you. One quick question for Chirag. Along with IT, of course, drone and drone technology is again, for us, a new sector. And it has multiple applications, whether it is agri, whether it is disaster management, also health sector to some extent. So just quickly tell us, what kind of education and skilling is required, let's say, for youth coming from different backgrounds. So is there any course which is run in the higher education institutions, or you feel that, some skilling should be given at that level to sort of get them integrated into this new technology?
So just to give a perspective on, I was hearing AI as well, and also just so that some people can also calm their nerves. So while AI will start, obviously you'll have to upskill yourself. Drone is one sector where safety and security is still going to be permeable within the regulatory affairs also. So while we're still in our company building these AI-enabled drones who can just do fully autonomous missions, but there is always this issue of someone remotely controlling it. What if the technology fails and you have to take a manual control of it? So incidentally, at least for our sector, with AI and drones coming into picture, the human pilot will still not go out of the equation for the next 5-7 years. So that's one plus. Now, what do we look in this pilot? So today, if you want to become a licensed pilot, the regulations only says you have to be class 10th pass and 18 years of age and up. And that's the only, so it's a very minimum requirement. But having seen and, trained so many pilots, we generally feel that kids coming from some technical background or having some, exposure to science is important for them to pick this up, because these courses, even if you want to become a licensed pilot today, all you have to do is come to us for 5 days and, do theory sessions, flight simulator, learn a bit about drone assembly, and then learn how to fly and pass a test. And that's it, you can get a 10-year license. But having said that, is that enough? The answer is no. So, and on the forum, I heard about women participation. Incidentally, I want to also highlight here, while we're talking AI and upskilling of AI, we're generally talking about upskilling of urban population at large. But drones is one sector where 70% of employment generation is going to happen in the rural. Because of multiple use cases which don't happen in urban areas, but just happen. So if you have a plant, if you have a pipeline, you have power lines, you have agriculture, all of these are in hinterland. They're not necessarily in the heart of the city. And then secondly, there was an article just this week where it said that 60% of the workforce now in rural areas, they don't want to migrate. They're trying to look for jobs near their households. So what drone does is, because it's enabling people to, it's almost like generally people from rural areas would come to cities because, it's a matter of pride that they're working in bigger cities and the kind of jobs that they might end up getting. Here, if you bring the tech, give it in the hands of rural population. Just a short example. So, there's a scheme called Namo Drone Didi scheme, where 15,000 women from self-help groups are being given drones so that they can do agriculture spray in their neighborhoods, spray pesticides, urea, many such agrochemicals. So we just trained about 600 of them. The first lot came of 1,000 trained Didis that got trained. These women directly, coming from households. Yesterday they were cooking in their houses. Next day they show up to an academy. They came to our Manasa center. And then for the first time, maybe after 20 odd years, they're looking at, what's principles of aerodynamics. So obviously it was a culture shock for our instructors also in the beginning. But we realized how we could temper down what we had to teach them, get them hands-on. And then so eventually now we know women who are making up to 50,000-60,000 rupees doing drone spray applications. So I understand that we're all going over time, but that's the kind of impact that we're looking at. So incidentally, this sector brings in some unique facets which will help in employment generation. Yeah.
Like soft skills, these are soft signals.
Am I allowed to ask one last question? Maybe we can keep it very short. Yeah, so just that, when we are talking of all the core skills, there is one skill which is kind of very important, that is life skills, which includes communication, negotiation skills, and so many, because it can really undo all the learning that we have unless we have these skills. So Vidya, very quickly tell us how your organization supports this and why is it so important to have life skills also at all levels. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I won't be between all of you and lunch. And already we are getting signals. Yes, we've been working with mainly adolescents through the life skills program, which already Government of India has been having. And they've also mainstreamed it across. So it is, like you said, everything fails if you don't have the life skill. Like simple thing, children don't know how to negotiate. And for girls especially, they become victims of abuse because they've not been taught life skills. They've not been taught to be, to open up and speak. Even within the family, when it happens, mothers generally ask them to be quiet. I mean, there have been so many Bollywood movies made on this, topic. So these are, I'm just giving one example. There are negotiation skills to continue your education. I'm taking the example of girls because definitely they are more vulnerable when it comes to marginalized, socially and economically marginalized groups that we talk about. So life skills education, one thing we've been doing, and it is very important when we've seen children coming out and speaking. We have a voluntary organization in our building where I give pro bono support, where we are working with about 200 children. There we see how life skills education has improved their confidence and the holistic personality improvement and their negotiation skills. But in every aspect, as you said, whether it is an ASHA, Anganwadi worker, or a PRI member, for all of them to even at the community level, we work a lot at the community level. So if without life skills, any flagship program finally is block and below. These communication skills, interpersonal skills, negotiation skills, all these which are very important part of life skills. Without that, it is absolutely, they can't achieve their goals. I stop there. Too many stairs.
Thank you so much. So I would like to thank the panelists. We have had a wonderful and a very diverse panel. So from IT, digital to, rural programs and to marginalized communities and life skills. So I'm sure, there is a lot to take away for the audience from this panel. I thank you once again for participating in this, and over to you.